We are Forestry.
And this is the UPLB-CFNR channel.
For the very passionate presentation and for those reactions. So far we have around 11 questions on the Q&A. So we'll just, for the first question, this is for the panelists. The National Land Use Bill has been pending in the Congress and Senate for several years now and was mentioned again by the President in the recent SONA. What do you think should be the most important policy or policies that should be included in the National Land Use Bill? So perhaps we can ask first Academician Rex Cruz to answer the question, and then we'll just ask the panelists to add some more if they have something to say. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I will have. Yeah, I will have to say I have seen several versions of the National Land Use Bill, and I have to see a clear provision for the physical framework for national land use planning, because this is really where, really where integration, integrated planning is going to emanate from. So as of the last version that I saw, it was not clear, it was not very clear how the, what physical framework, are they pushing in the bill. But, if this can be done, I think that's a very, that's very critical provisions that will make a lot of difference, yung clarifying the physical framework, whether that is watershed or landscape or reef to ridge framework. But it has to be, it has to be clarified, and siguro yung details can be can be done in the development of IRR once it is passed.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Dr. Dana, do you have something to add on that?
Sige. I think this is the bill that every zona, the president is continually reminding our lawmakers that they, in fact, in yesterday's zona, again, the president says, you take a look at this national land use. So there's really something why our lawmakers find it maybe difficult to pass this, no? But again, I would look at it that this is really very important, especially at this time. You're experiencing disasters, you're experiencing a lot of I would say consequences of ecosystem degradations, that indeed the guide as to areas where that are supposed to be hazard areas and that is not supposed to be area for people would be delineated. So I think the most important there would be a guide as to the criteria that would be used in terms of classifying certain area that this is for production, this is for protection, this is for people, this is not for people. I think that's the most important thing, that we have a law that will guide us as to which one is appropriate, which one is not appropriate.
Okay. Sir Fred Gina, do you have something to add?
No.
Yep.
Okay, I concur with Sir Tony Dano regarding that. I think the NALUA in itself is actually a collaboration with all the other agencies who have consulted the legislators. So I think on my part, I think what's more important is for all the stakeholders and those who have crafted the legislation to know their priorities. I think in this webinar series, we have actually shown them what is most important, which is the preservation of our ecosystems. So I think they could set their priorities and they are enlightened to what should be given consideration first and preserved. I think we could proceed with the NALUA. Thank you.
Okay, Mayor.
I, I agree with the other speakers, but the presentation of Dr. Rex Cruz, I think, would be most appropriate for the lawmakers to hear, or maybe this presentation can reach them because it it encapsulates all the things that we should be doing and places us where we are right now. There are so many already things that are already in paper, but in reality, the actual implementation was not met. So I still believe that the Academ, I mean, a Philippine-based data, Philippine-based works should be considered. All these what laws or that we should be doing, ma'am.
Okay, thank you very much. So since the National Land Use Act has been there for many years already, what do you think, there's a follow-up question, what do you think should be done to ensure its passage? Tanong natin sa Congress. Sir Rex?
Really, until I think it's really it's really in the hands of the president.
Right.
And if it has been kicked around sa Congress, sa lower and sa Senate, and nothing is moving there, if the president will say, let's pass this once and for all because this is important, I think it will pass. But unless the president says, it has to be passed and it has to be, certified as an urgent bill, it will not pass. There's just so much. Stakes for many lawmakers, not to pass it. So, but yeah, it's in the president's hands.
Yeah. So actually, there's a comment here from Eugene Sell. He did not mention his where he comes from. He said that most LGUs are adamant to formulate their CLUPs. So probably he's one from LGU because of the contested area between adjacent LGUs. FLUPs most of the time are being put into status quo. Hopefully the National Land Use Plan should be passed to ensure that land use intended, for example, for forests be really reserved for such. So it's just a comment. And then from Forester Rogelio Hibe of FMB DNR, this question is for Academician Rex Cruz. What do you think is the importance of the National Land Use Act in the integration of all the land use plans?
It can do a lot if, again, as I said, going back to my first comment on the National Land Use Bill, if the physical framework is going to be very clear, I think it will, yes, the answer will be yes. But unless the physical framework is clarified, then it will be difficult. It will be difficult because then everybody, will have different preference. Mm-hmm. So the importance of clarifying the physical framework is that it will be the common framework from the lowest level of planning to the highest.
Okay. Next question from, I think this is from the CFNR, one of the CFNR reps. Some LGUs don't have the capacity and resources to make use of the technology such as GIS, remote sensing, instrumentation in their land use planning. How can the government and academic research institution help these LGUs? Well, kanina sinabi na ni Dr. Cruz kay Mayor Hermie that the Academ is willing to help them. Sir Rex.
Yeah, it's my continuing advocacy, as part of as part of UPLB, as part of CFNR, to provide technical assistance to LGUs, in whatever terms, in whatever terms. And a lot, and a lot are actually a lot are actually inhibited to come to us, thinking that they don't have money to, they don't have money to pay us. But as I said, in whatever terms we can help. And it doesn't have to be always consultancy, because we know that many LGUs do not have the resources, to pay for that. But there are many instances also that we have assisted LGUs without really going into the consultancy arrangements. But yes, I do believe that there are a lot that the LGUs right now cannot do because of limitation of their resources and expertise, and this has something to be addressed. And one way to address this is to tap the, to set in place mechanisms where the LGUs can really partner with, academe and the private sector, if needed, so that they will have the resources and the expertise that they need. Yeah. But let me say this, nagbabago na naman yan, nagbabago na naman yan, and I think even si Mayor Hermie, can attest to this, that LGUs are actually learning already how to beef up their own expertise and resources for planning, no? Marami na ako nakitang LGUs na maganda mga systems nila, including yung GIS nila, units nila, and so on, And this will continue to happen as they realize that this is a priority need for them, especially in planning and implementation of their plans. So nagbabago na naman, but still there are those LGUs with difficulties, as mentioned.
Right. Okay. From the DNR side, Dr. Danyo?
I think this is an opportunity. The formulations of the comprehensive land use plan is really an opportunity that the Academ, DNR, together with the LGU, can work together. In fact, the Forest Management Bureau and, of course, the arm of the DNR and the regions are the regional offices. It's one of the task targets of helping in the formulations of comprehensive land use plan. So I think maybe hindi lang ito na-tap, na for our LGU to approach DNR offices and seek assistance, So it's both Academ and DNR actually have some responsibilities, some mandate to assist our local government in complying, in having a comprehensive land use plan. So, yun lang siguro yung hindi na-tap ang resources, but it's available.
Yeah, okay. What about Sir Fred Gina? Do you have something to share?
Ma'am, I'll concur with the other panelists and speakers. So, yes, that's the reality on the ground, the capacity of the LGUs to harness especially GIS and other technology-driven tools. But like what they said, it's a collaborative effort. And we at the now Department of Human Settlements and Urban Development, which is formerly the HLRB, who have developed the guidelines, have our mandate to provide technical assistance to all LGUs. Actually, I think with our elevation from a regulatory board or a commission to a national government agency department level, will be given more resources, more budget, and more technical staff to assist the LGUs. Actually, one of the offshoots of the creation of the department is that we will now have the capacity to open regional offices to all the administrative regions of the Philippines. Because before, if some of you are where some of the regional offices that we have were clustered, given the existing manpower resources available. So to all the LGUs out there, please feel free to contact us. And like I said, it's always a collaborative effort. The CLUP was made in collaboration with all the NGAs, especially DENR, DILG, and all the departments. They have provided us with their technical expertise, the provisions of maps, the teaching of GIS, which we would share with the LGUs.
Okay, so Mayor Hermie, sabihin nyo sa mga kapwa nyo may gumaya sa inyo. Maging
Ma'am,
successful.
may kwan lang po ako. Di parang ang nagiging pressure ko kasi ngayon is the funding for all those things po, no. I think from what I'm experiencing, may mga pondo naman na available sana sa LGU, pero ang nalilimit kami minsan dun sa menu ng pagkagagamitan. For example, yung AM, yung dati pong alam natin na assistance BUB, yung mga ganon, BUB fund, the new name is DILG po yun, fund yun. May menu po sila kung saan pwedeng gamitin yun. Knowing now that itong pinag-uusapan natin is somewhat urgent and not somewhat urgent, is urgent po. Yung preparation nga lang po yung kulang. Maybe if people from other agencies with such funds, they just tweak some of their criteria where we kung saan pwede namin gamitin po yung mga pondo na yon. The questions now na naririnig ko ngayon na LGU don't have those funds, meron din po sigurong paraan po yun. We'll just look into some of the sources na medyo nalilimit po ang paggamit nito because of mga joint circulars and everything po. Just my kwan po. Just my idea.
Okay, thank you, sir. So this next question is for Academician Rex Cruz. This is from Jose Canapi Jr. I am doing commercial forestry in collaboration with the IPs and the foreign investor. My question is, in planning and delineating the legitimate boundary of the area, will the CADT technical description be sufficient? Sir Rex.
Well, okay. Let me say that the ideal unit for land use planning should be physically based, and it has to be it has to be a natural system. It could be a watershed, or it could be an ecosystem. But ideally a watershed, because a watershed is self-contained system where you can easily evaluate and where you can conveniently evaluate the impacts of any use of the land inside it. So in other words, if the unit of planning is going to be CADT, and if it's not, if it straddles several watersheds, then the planning should be based on the several watersheds where the CADT is located. Or if it is located only in one watershed, then the unit of planning for that area should be, within the watershed where the CADT is located. But that is ideal. It will be difficult to use the CADT if it is by itself. Ang hirap i-ensure that the soil and the water, for instance, is going to be protected by just using a CADT where the physical boundary does not coincide with the boundary of watersheds.
Okay, so thank you.
Parang it's just like comprehensive land use planning that is based on the political boundary of the watershed, which we used to do. Okay, the political boundary, is not very useful when trying to ensure that the uses of the land, does not does not compromise or jeopardize the sustainability of water, of soil, of human security, by way of water-related risks such as flooding, and landslides. So mahalaga na it has to be a physical unit such as a watershed.
Watershed. Okay. Not the CAD-T technical description. Okay, this is again for Academician Rex Cruz from Dennis Dolohan. Do you think the non-adherence or maximizing the use of CLUP created by the LGU is due to the leadership of the municipal planning officers who are simply appointed by the mayor and not actually urban or environmental planners?
It could be, but it could be, but not necessarily. Posible, no? Pero not. It's not. It doesn't apply to all cases. I think there are people who are not ENP and appointed by the mayor, who did well, and I based that from yung dissertation ng aming isang estudyante, no? And so ibig sabihin, it could be, and it's just one of those reasons, sa governance system that CLUP is not, it's not properly implemented. Okay. Some other reasons include, for instance, yung sinabi ko kanina, the absence of mechanisms establishing the accountability, of adverse impacts of land uses. Okay. So, maano to pwedeng i-affirm ni Mayor Hermie, no, na wala naman talagang mechanisms to say that ang isang bayan o isang LGU will have to be penalized or will have to be reprimanded, because their land use plan is not implemented, and that it has adverse impacts on soil, on water, on disaster risks. Walang ganon eh. Walang system of establishing accountability. So that's one. If that is the case, what will motivate a particular LGU to really do well, unless the mayor is like Mayor Hermie or Mayor Ezzy Rusol, no, who are really very, very keen on doing what is right, no, and that is to implement whatever plans they have. The other reason is this, no, gagawa ng LGUs will do a very good CLUP, they will do a good development plans, but they are hardly used by the national government agencies as basis for investing in that LGU. So, what motivation is there for doing a good plan when it's not really, attracting investments from the national government agencies, and that the national government agencies insist on investing on programs or projects not needed by the LGUs, and that are not articulated in their development plans. So, those are the reasons that prevents the full implementation, or proper implementation of the CLUP.
Okay. Another question. Favorite ka. What is your take this is from Max Makito of CIPAF. What is your take on non-government approaches to forest management, in particular CBFM and forest stewardship certification? Non-government.
I don't see any problem, In fact, these are good, land management approaches or land management systems, And for as long as they are, they are guided on what activities should be done in the right places or in the proper places, I think it's, it's fine. I mean, it still depends on what they do in the land, how they do it in the land, and if they're doing what they're supposed to be doing in the proper land, proper site, proper location. So whatever land management system it is, whether it's community-based, or whether it's mining, or whether it's upland farming, it doesn't really matter, for as long as they adhere to the principle that they do it in the proper area with the proper practices and system.
Okay, very well said. Another question for you from Richard Tambalo. Mining operations are a direct way of by which deforestation and forest degradation occur. Mining operations also complicates the integrated planning for a balanced ecological and economical goals for nearby communities. What government policies are there that will control the impact of mining operations? And second, how do we address mining operations in integrated land use?
Yeah. There are policies in place that I believe are sufficient, sufficient to ensure that the mining activities are done properly. It's just really now, it's just really an issue or a question of how these are being implemented. And I think MGB is doing a good job in this regard, no? But there are some few details that need to be improved on, such as, for instance, transparency. And that's why people are always, they're always suspicious of mining activities, because there's really not much transparency when it comes to the results of environmental monitoring, for instance, the result of the community development programs of mining companies, So, these are things that need to be cured. If we want mining to be projected as a sustainable land use, there has to be greater transparency in disclosing, the impacts of their operation on the environment, on natural resources, and on the communities, on the people. So, if this can be done, I think a lot can be cured, and yeah. Now, how do we treat land mining in integrated land use planning? Yes, we do. We did some planning, for instance. I can't remember anymore, where there are mining claims and where there are ongoing mining activities. And yeah, they can be integrated. They can be integrated, and their impacts can be measured. Okay, so that it can be assessed whether mining can be allowed, or whether mining should be downscaled, or whether additional mining can still be allowed, without compromising the long-term sustainability of ecosystems, of watersheds, that are located where the mining activities are actually ongoing. So it can be done, it can be done. Oh, by the way, we have just submitted our final report, of our project on watershed policies, that includes land use planning, watershed-based land use planning, and we also have one section there on mining, as a land use, as a land use considerations in an alternative land use, rather, in watersheds. I think there is also a related question, Yai, from Dr. Tolentino, lest he will
Ang dami actually ang dami pang questions. Okay, so
actually nabasa ko na yan eh. Nabasa ko na yung question ni nabasa ko yung sagutin ko lang maikli.
Sige.
Sagutin ko lang maikli yung question ni Dr. Ike Tolentino. Kasi
overtime.
ang question niya is that Uh, ang question niya kasi is that mining, yung mga mining rights, no, o mining permits are given on areas that straddle more than one watershed, you know. And I think the question is there a problem with that? Actually, no problem with that, you know. For as long as monitoring is done, you know, for both watersheds, if they straddle two watersheds, we monitor both of them, you know. And when we try to monitor those two watersheds, you know, the monitoring should be able to isolate the impacts of the mining activities. Okay, so that's the key. Okay, but mining activities is straddling more than one watershed is not a problem, but the intensity of monitoring or the level of effort for monitoring just you know, this just multiplied uh, you know, proportionately. So
Okay, thank you, sir. So there are actually still a lot of questions here, but perhaps we can just take in one last question. And this is from Forester cum environmental planner Ansel Cabrera. And this is his question. While we understand and push for all these technical pillars of land use planning using the EIM framework, the implementation is always political, especially if done at the LGU level, and defeat the very purpose of the noble intent. Recommendations to address this issue has been into many discussions, but the issue remains. What national and local level actions do you think can be done to address this? So this is addressed to Sir Rex.
okay, let me say this. You know, it's possible. It's possible that it's you know. But again, I will say it's not necessary. You know, that it's always political. In fact, it could be more. You know, it could be more of the inadequate, you know, appreciation for the framework and how they can, you know, how they can apply that to their particular planning processes. Okay, and I would like, you know, I would like to venture that it is more likely, you know, that it is the reason, okay, that there is, you know, that there's a need to just enhance their appreciation and understanding about the framework in the same way, you know, in the same way that it was found by one of our students that I mentioned earlier, you know, that the watershed approach, you know, is not being clearly applied by the LGUs in developing and updating their CLUP, you know, simply because they don't have a full and clear understanding of, you know, how to use it or how to apply it. And of course, you add to that, they really lack, you know, expertise, you know, in this area. So it's not always political. You know, it could be political in some areas, but it's not always political. There are more, I think, overriding factors, you know, just as I mentioned.
Okay, I think we don't have time. It's already 12:01 to be exact. So thank you very much for that very fruitful discussion. I'd like to ask each of you for one last very quick comment or message. Do you have any? Let's have first Dr. Danyo. Mute ka, Tony.
Oh, nakamute ka.
Sorry. As I mentioned in the discussion earlier, that we in the RBCO are supportive in the applications of landscape-based or river basin-based approach in the management of our river basin, and we will continue to do it, no, despite some difficulties going into mostly in the implementations. But I think with constant working to responsible people, maybe slowly we would be able to really help pushing the applications of the landscape-based or river basin-based approach in the planning for our land use. Again, good morning or good afternoon sa ating lahat.
Thank you, sir. Sir Fred Gina.
Thank you. Again, the HLURB and now the DSUD is always and continuously working with other national government agencies and other stakeholders to improve our comprehensive land use plan guidelines and guidebooks. So I encourage LGUs to fully utilize our guidebooks and our other policies, because this is also for the benefit of all the stakeholders. And I do believe regarding the concern of one of the participants regarding the capability in terms of the implementation of the plans, I think an important aspect is the communication of these plans to all the stakeholders and also to the chief local executives in all the LGUs. I think if we could enlighten them, like I said, regarding the importance of ecosystems and get their priorities straight and are communicated properly to them and all the stakeholders, I think it will be a good step in the right direction in coming up with a good CLUP.
Okay, Sir Rex, one final short comment.
Okay. Let me summarize, the watershed approach or the rich reef approach, as applied to land use planning or comprehensive land use planning, in specific. Okay. The process is know first what are the ideal land zoning and land use combination that will sustain the watershed as a system. And then once you have known the proper mix of uses or the proper zoning in a watershed, use that now as the framework for developing the zoning of a particular LGU that is located inside that watershed. And that is something that, we really need to understand more, and to push more. And I hope that is simple enough, Watershed is not a consideration in land use planning. Watershed is the framework, Watershed approach means watershed is a framework. Therefore, watershed, watershed zoning, watershed, the proper combination of land uses within watershed should be determined first, okay? And then use that as a reference, as a benchmark for developing CLUP. And make sure na hindi masyado it's not more, the departure from the watershed zoning and combination of uses does not, that the CLUP does not depart significantly from that, but they can be flexible, in adapting to the watershed zoning. So that's how it is, and that's how clearly our guideline should be, because that is the watershed approach.
Okay, and finally, Mayor Hermie.
Yes, first I would like to thank everyone for this forum. Marami akong nalalaman. But following the conversations that we have, I can see that much of the work that has to be done involves the local government units. And alam din natin from the different feedbacks na maraming problema sa local government in terms of the support of the supposedly policymakers, particularly the mayors, the technocrats na hindi available sa amin, including the budget and everything. But learning po from our experience, we are a fourth-class municipality IP community. I think hindi po nagiging sagabal po yung mga problems po ng pera. I think we just have to connect with the right people, and particularly I'm always saying this, yung academe po, we have to get the right information, we have to get the right data in order na yung framework po na pinag-uusapan natin, it will lead us to that particular CLUP na talagang it's a based scientifically from whatever data that can be generated by our academia. So with that po siguro, ang nakikita kong bigger picture pa dito na ginagawa na rin namin dito sa La Union, yung pong sabi ni Dr. Rex kanina na the individual CLUP of the LGUs should be dependent or integrated po dun sa watershed framework po, because without that na parang it's a parang guide yung all LGUs within that watershed framework, baka yung mga policies na magawa po natin ay yung sinasabi natin pong skewed, sayang po yung panahon and everything. So all in po, I think lahat ng agencies kailangang magtulong-tulungan. Tama rin po yung observation na some of ang awareness po ng LGU kung minsan hindi maganda, hindi perfect. So yun po siguro yung isa na kailangan kwan. And so I'm thinking nga po ngayon, what are the support system para ang LGUs gumalaw? So you've been hearing about po yung SGLG, di ba? Nako, magagalit marami sa akin na mayors ito. Because the SGLG, doon po kami na talagang we have to satisfy kung ano po yung mga kailangan sa SGLG to pass as a standard, yung mga dapat standards na meron ang isang munisipyo. If we could inject ito yung sinasabi na natin na we should be preparing for a better CLUP. If we could inject that on those indicators that would be monitored by a specific agency, then maybe we could be taking that particular step towards po yung gusto nating marating. Kahit pa konti-konti, darating po tayo doon siguro. Yun lang po, sir. Thank you.
Okay, maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat for the questions of the participants na hindi po namin na-entertain. Rest assured that we will forward this to our resource person and to our panelists, and ibabalik po namin yan sa inyo with the answer or doon sa inyo pong mga questions. Okay, I'd like to give back the floor to Raymond.
Yes, thank you, Ate Yay. Okay, so before we proceed to the presentation of the certificates, I would like just to acknowledge the support of our Dean, Doc Willie Abasolo. Okay, so dapat po kasama natin siya dito ngayon at magbibigay po siya ng message. But I think meron po yata yung problems connecting. Anyway, so pagka baka nakakonect po siya, bibigyan po natin siya ng konting time para magsalita. But anyway, I'll proceed to the certificates. Okay, so kindly flash the certificates. Yes. Yes, so the Forestry Development Center, College of Forestry and Natural Resources, University of the Philippines, Las Bañas, presents the Certificate of Appreciation to Dr. Rex Victor Cruz for serving as speaker on the topic Integrated Area Land Use Planning and Development to help minimize public risks and more. So presented during the 42nd FDC Anniversary Policy Forum, Adaptive Forest and Environmental Policies in Response to COVID-19 Pandemic. So presented on July 28 July 2020, organized by the FDC with support of the Information Technology Center UPLB. Signed, Dean Willie P. Abasolo, CFNR, and Priscilla C. Dalom, Director FDC. Sir, thank you. And then I would like to read the certificates for our discussants. So very quickly. So Forestry Development Center, College of Forestry and Natural Resources, University of the Philippines, Las Bañas, grants the Certificate of Appreciation to the following: Environmental Planner Pito Daniel G. Fraginal, Dr. Antonio M. Danyo, and Honorable Hermenegildo M. Velasco, for serving as discussions on the topic Integrated Area Land Use Planning and Development to help minimize public health risks and more. Presented during the 42nd FDC Anniversary Policy Forum, Adapted Forest and Environmental Policies in Response to COVID-19 Pandemic. Presented on 28 July 2020, organized by the FDC with support of the Information Technology Center, UPLB. Signed, Willie P. Abasolo, Dean, CFNR, and Priscilla C. Delom, Director, FDC. Thank you very much, sirs. Mayor Velasco, Sir Tony, and Sir Peter.